Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, one and all. Happy Thursday to you. This is O'Connor and Company on WMAL. No, I'm not Larry O'Connor. I'm Andrew Langer, sitting alongside Cassie Smedley. Good morning, Cassie.
Good morning. Is it even Thursday until we get this song?
No, it is not.
The official
in
start
fact,
to the day.
you know, it's funny. I was at my car dealership a couple of weeks ago, and they play great music at my car dealership, and I'm there all the time because my family has multiple cars, take care of my kids' cars, etc. And this came on, and I said, oh, it must be 8 a.m. So here we are. This is News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. Going to be joined in a little bit by former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich, my friend and your friend as well, to talk about everything, all the shenanigans in Westmore's Maryland. But joining us right now is KT McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, the author of the book Revolution, herself a victim of politicized lawfare. She tells a harrowing story. If you've never heard it, you should go and check that out. KT, so we had this meeting with the president and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. I think by all accounts it was a successful meeting. Your thoughts here?
Oh, knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, Saudi Arabia has gone from a country which Joe Biden called a pariah and had nothing to do with except begging them to produce more oil so the oil prices, gas prices in the U.S. would go down, to now a major non-NATO ally. And why is this so significant? Well, Saudi Arabia has become the linchpin of Trump's entire Middle East diplomacy because of the Saudis, because of their support, President Trump's support for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who President Trump said the other night, well, he's going to be king at some point. Well, because of his support, the two of them together, working together, we had the Abraham Accords. Because of the two of them working together, we have the Gaza peace plan. Because of the two of them working together, China's more or less out of the region. Russia's out of the region. Because the two of them working together, we now have a good relationship with the new head of Syria. Because of them working together, Iran is just a shadow of its former self. All these are good things.
Casey, let me ask you this, because you mentioned the issue of gas prices, oil prices, and what the Biden administration did. How does the U.S. massively ramping up oil production and refining here at home, how does that give us greater leverage over Saudi Arabia? Is this part of what brings Saudi Arabia to the table in terms of making all of these other negotiations? The U.S. is in such a much stronger position when it comes to petrodollars?
Yeah, it's just simple supply and demand. The more supply of oil and natural gas in the world, the lower the prices. And Saudi Arabia looked at that, in fact, looked at that during Trump's first term and said, wait, if Saudi Arabia is reliant completely on high oil prices, and high oil prices are a thing of the past, they are never going to go up again to the extent that they were before because of America's production. We, Saudi Arabia, have to find a new way to diversify our economy. We can't just be a petro state anymore. We have to do a whole lot of other things. We want to be a tech state. And so President Trump's energy policies have there are a lot of follow-on knock-on events, particularly, for example, manufacturing. Now, $20 trillion is now coming back into the United States to build new factories, manufacturing facilities, tech industry. What does all that require? A lot of energy. We have a lot of energy now, thanks to Donald Trump. We have energy at a low cost, lower than anybody else's energy. So it'll make our manufacturing much more competitive because it'll be cheaper to produce because of our low energy costs. It'll make our artificial intelligence and quantum computing leaps ahead of everybody else because we have all of the extraordinary amount of energy that requires. Quantum computing takes, exponentially more energy than we even have available today in the world. And so it puts the United States, the energy, the ability to have an enormous, really unending supply of cheap and reliable, safe oil and natural gas, puts us in the world's primary position. That's why President Trump always talks about energy dominance. Mm-hmm. It's not just energy independence, it's dominance.
Well, and all of that being to the good, putting on my devil's advocate hat, if you watched the mainstream coverage of this visit, it was basically he's sleeping with the enemy. He's selling our soul. This is the worst thing ever. Is there some concern, though, that we're holding them a little too close. We're getting a little too cozy, that this could backfire in the future. Where's your sense on that?
Well, what are you doing listening to the lamestream media? I mean, they haven't gotten anything right.
Opposition research.
Joe Biden, oh, man, that Joe Biden, he's sharp as a tack.
Oh,
you know, oh, Russia. You know, what have they gotten right? COVID? Oh, man, they were really right about those vaccines. You know, look, who's listening to them anymore? But secondly, the closeness of Saudi Arabia. You know, everything that President Trump has done is really, I think, pulling Saudi Arabia closer into our net. You know, what do they want out of this? They want a diversified economy. They want to be a tech superpower. And why does that work for them? Only if they have a close relationship with Israel. So that's why I think inevitably the Saudis will join the Abraham Accords. They want to trade with Israel. And the reason they want to trade is Israel, tech, startup nation, you know, one of the most entrepreneurial, so the Silicon Valley of the entire, you know, non-American world. The Saudis want to team up with that because they have an unending supply of energy. So the two of them are natural allies if they could only get over the hump of thousands of years of tribal warfare. And President Trump seems to have gotten them over the hump of the thousands of years of tribal warfare. God bless him.
You know, years ago, I tried to have that conversation with folks who were hopefully returning to Western Sahara as that issue continues to fester in North Africa, and, you know, making the case you don't need to rely on phosphorus and fishing as an industry. You can actually generate some things. Let's talk about this, though, real quick, KT. Please explain to our listeners just what it means. What is the significance of Saudi Arabia becoming the 20th nation to hold a major non-NATO ally status? What does the status mean, and what does it mean for Saudi Arabia to have become this?
Well, Saudi Arabia will look at that as sort of an insurance policy, or at least a comfort blanket, of the United States would be there to help them against any potential attack from Iran. And that's the worry that the Saudis have, that Iran, whatever is left of Iran's military, could destroy Saudi Arabia's oil fields. So I think it's that. But for our perspective, what is good for us is that they're going to now invest in they're going to buy American weapons, they're going to invest in American defense industries. That's good for us. And it really just is, in a lot of ways, it's really more symbolic than factual. Although it's plenty factual, it allows us to have put our military equipment there. It's just a lot more military cooperation country to country that is that really helps us, I think, in a security position all around the world. And Trump has these pals. You know, he's got this sort of, like every continent, he's got a new best friend, and that new best friend is helping us economically, diplomatically, politically, and militarily. And Saudi Arabia is our best friend in the Middle East after Israel.
So, KT, before we let you go, the other big news was that this deal, part of this deal that happened, was that Trump secured the release of an American trapped in Saudi Arabia for years over social media posts. This is important. We're fighting the free speech battle here. Getting Saudi Arabia on the right side of this is important, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a way that the Crown Prince is opening up to Saudi society. He had an open, no holds barred press conference, and he stood there and he answered every question. The meeting that President Trump went to in May when he went to Saudi Arabia, this was a meeting that was many countries of the region. Guess what? A woman presided over it. You know, 5 years before, women couldn't drive in Saudi Arabia. So I think it's another symbol and proof of the fact that Saudi Arabia is going in a different direction. It's opening its economy. It's opening its society. It's becoming very pro-American.
Well, KT, listen, we'll leave it there. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you both. And thank you, Andrew, for the work you're doing at CPAC.
Thank you very much, KT, for that. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's KT McFarland. She's a former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, the author of Revolution. You can find her on social media at Real KT McFarland. Go and check her out.